Hello, my name is Jiso, and I've been reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō, and we're on chapter 66, Shunju, Spring and Autumn. It's been a beautiful spring day here, nice and hot, 24, 25 degrees, although the sky has gone very dark now, so we might get some rain, you never know. Shun means spring, and Ju, which is a corruption of Shu, means autumn. Shunju, spring and autumn, expresses the seasons. In this chapter, Master Dōgen describes the Buddhist attitude towards cold and heat. First, Master Dōgen quotes a famous conversation on this subject between Master Tōzen Ryokai and a monk. Then he discusses the comments of some ancient masters in order to explain the true meaning of the story. I might get through all this today. We'll see how it goes. Great Master Tōzen Gohon, the story goes, is asked by a monk, when cold or heat come, how are we to avoid them? The master says, why do you not go to the place without cold and heat? The monk says, what is the place without cold and heat? The master says, when it is cold, kill the Akaria with cold. When it is hot, kill the Akaria with heat. Many have discussed this story in the past, and many should consider it in the present. Buddhist patriarchs inevitably have experienced it, and those who have experienced it are Buddhist patriarchs. Many Buddhist patriarchs of the past and present in the Western heavens and in the Eastern lands have seen this story as their real features. The realization of the features of this story is the reality of Buddhist patriarchs. Oh, hello. Yeah. All right. Say hello to the people on YouTube. Oh. Hello. Say hello. Not feeling it today. I've lost my page now as well. That being so, we should clarify in detail the monk's question, when cold or heat come, how are we to avoid them? That means detailed examination experience of the very moment in which cold has come and of the very moment in which heat has come. Both the totality of cold and the totality of heat in this cold and heat are cold and heat themselves. Because they are cold and heat themselves, when they have come from the very brains of cold and heat themselves, and they are manifest from the very eyes of cold and heat themselves. On these very brains is the place without cold and heat. In these very eyes is the place without cold and heat. The founding patriarch's words, when it is cold, kill the Akaria with cold. When it is hot, kill the Akaria with heat, are about the situation just at the moment of having arrived. When it is cold, the expression is killing with cold, and when it is hot, killing with heat. Here comes the rain. And when it is hot, but when it is hot, killing with heat need not always be the expression. Cold is utterly cold, and heat is utterly hot. Even if we have been able to discover myriad coties of methods of avoidance, they are all like replacing a tail with a head. It's a great expression. Replacing a tail with a head here suggests impracticality. Sometimes the same expression suggests changing from an intellectual attitude to a practical attitude. Cold is just the vivid eyes of the ancestral patriarchs. Heat is just the warm skin and flesh of my late master. Zen Master Join Koboku, who succeeded Master Fuyo and who was known as Master Hojo, says, some among the Sangha interpret as follows. This monk's question has fallen into the relative already. Tōzen's answer returns to the absolute. In Tōzan's speech, the monk recognizes sound and comes into the absolute. Tōzan then exits via the relative. Interpretations like this not only blaspheme the ancient saints, but also daunt the perpetrators themselves. Have you not read the words that, when we listen to the understanding of ordinary people, though reds and blues it excites in the mind may be beautiful for the eyes, before the eyes, if it is stored for long it makes for disease. In general, noble wayfarers, if you want to master this matter, first you must know the founding patriarch's right Dharma eye treasury. The comments and teaching of other Buddhist patriarchs are something like the murmurs of hot water in a lacquered bowl. Even so, I dare to ask you, what, in conclusion, is the place without cold or heat? Do you understand or not? A jewelled tower is a nest for a kingfisher, but a golden palace offers no shelter to a mandarin duck. That's from Katai Fotu Roku, chapter 26. It's not going to explain why a golden palace offers no shelter to a duck. This master is a descendant of Tōzan, a hero in the patriarch's order. That being so, he clearly admonishes the many individuals who mistakenly prostrate themselves to the great master Tōzan, the founding patriarch, inside the cave of the relative and the absolute. If the Buddha Dharma were transmitted and received on the basis of limited consideration of the relative and the absolute, how could it have reached the present day? Wild kittens, barnyard bumpkins who have never explored Tōzan's inner sanctum, people who have not walked the threshold of the truth of the Buddha Dharma, mistakenly assert that Tōzan teaches people with his 5 positions of the relative and the absolute, and so on. All right, Kitty. There is an outlandish insistence and a random insistence. We should not see or hear it. We should just investigate the fact that the founding patriarch possesses the right Dharma eye treasury. Zen Master Wanshi of Tendozan Mountain in Kaigen-fu City, who succeeded Master Tanka and who was first known as Master Shokaku, says, "This episode, if we discuss it, is like a game of Go between 2 players. If you do not respond to my move, I will fool you completely. If we experience it like this, we will begin to understand Tōzan's intention, and Tendo cannot help adding a footnote. When we research it, this concrete place is without hot and cold. Already the blue depths have dried to the last drop. I tell you we can catch a giant turtle just by bending down. You are a laugh, dallying in the sand with a fishing rod." Not denying the game of Go for the present, how are the 2 players? If we call it a game of Go between 2 players, there might be a handicap of 8 stones. With an 8-stone handicap, is it not a game of Go? It is not a game of Go, is it? With an 8-stone handicap, it is not a game of Go, is it? If we were to discuss it, we should discuss it like this. The game of Go is 1 player and an opponent meeting each other. Even so, we should mindfully consider and should physically master the state now expressed by Wanshi as, "You do not respond to my move." "You do not respond to my move" says, "You can never be me." Do not pass over, "I will fool you completely." Master Wanshi's words describe the serious state of action in daily life. Do not pass over, "I will fool you completely." In mud there is mud. Those who tread in it wash their feet, and also wash their crown strings. In a pearl there is a pearl. When it shines, it illuminates others, and it illuminates itself. Crown strings. Are they strings from shoes that go over the crown of your foot? Zen Master Engo of Kasan Mountain, who succeeded Zen Master Goso Hoen and who was known as Master Kokugon, says, A bowl rolls around a pearl, and the pearl rolls around the bowl. The absolute in the relative in the absolute. Of the antelope carrying its horns there is no trace. Hunting hounds circle the forest and emptily skulk. Do you emptily skulk yet? Definitely empty. The present expression, a bowl rolls around a pearl, is unprecedented and inimitable. It has rarely been heard in eternity. Hitherto, people have spoken only as if the pearl rolling in the bowl was ceaseless. The antelope is now holding up its horns in the emptiness, and the forest is now circling the hunting hounds. Zen Master Mayokaku of Shijoji Temple on Sechozan Mountain in Kaiganfu City, who succeeded Master Hokuto Koso and who was known as Master Juken, says, A guiding hand is as a cliff of 10,000 feet. Why should the relative and the absolute always be neatly arranged? A stately old mansion of lapis lazuli lights up a bright moon. A black guard dog, hardy and keen, is vacantly padding up the steps. Black guard dog. Okay. Secho is a third-generation Dharma descendant of Unmon, and he may be called a bag of skin that has experienced satisfaction. Now, saying that a guiding hand is as a cliff of 10,000 feet, he indicates a singularly uncompromising standard, but a guiding hand may not always be like that. The present story of the monk's question and Tozan's teaching is not necessarily about bestowing a guiding hand or not bestowing a guiding hand, and not necessarily about leaving the world or not leaving the world. How much less does it rely on expression of the relative and the absolute? People seem unable to lay a hand upon this story without relying on the eyes and the relative and the absolute. Without relying on the eyes of the relative and the absolute. That is because, lacking the nose ring which is got by visiting a master and requesting instruction, they do not arrive at the periphery of the founding patriarch and do not glimpse the great masters of the Buddha Dharma. Picking up some new straw sandals, they should visit a master and request instruction. Stop recklessly saying that the Buddha Dharma of the founding patriarch is the 5 positions of the relative, the absolute and the relative. Master Shutaku of Tenai Temple in Tokei District, titled Zen Master Chori, says, Amid the relative exists the absolute. Amid the absolute, the relative. Thousands of centuries floating downstream in the human world. How many times I have hoped to return, but to return has been impossible. Before my gate, as ever, weeds are growing in abundance. Before my gate, weeds are growing in abundance. He also cannot help mentioning the absolute and relative, and yet he has picked up something. Not denying that he has picked up something, what is it that, in the middle of the relative, exists? Oh, I see, amid the relative. Master Busho of Dai Mountain in Tanshu, who succeeded Engo and whose monk's name was Hotai, says, all right, Kitty. Thanks to you, I have penetrated the place without cold or heat. A withered tree has bloomed again. Laughable people who marked their boat in looking for a sword still today are in cold ashes. Lots of footnotes there. Shunju, a Chinese book, Spring and Autumn by Roshi, tells the story of a man who dropped his sword from a boat on a river and tried to mark the place by putting a notch in his boat. He stubbornly searched under the notch even though the boat had moved downstream. It's a great story. People who mark their boat in looking for a sword. And still today are in cold ashes. It's just a note on the origin. Complete String of Pearls collection of eulogies to past masters of the Zen sect, chapter 24. The expression has just enough power to tread upon the board of law and to receive it upon the crown of the head. The board of law, the word is koan, which stands for official government law text, the name given to a board on which a new law was displayed. It is thus a symbol of universal law. So, to tread upon the board of law and to receive it upon the crown of the head. Right. Zen master Tando Bunjun of Rakuten Pond says, "In the moment of heat, I kill myself with heat, and in the moment of cold, with cold. Where heat and cold come from, I do not care at all. Realizing the ends of space in action and remembering worldly matters at will. The old master is crowned with a boar skin cap." Now let us ask, what is the truth of the state of not caring? Speak at once, speak at once. Zen Master Kazan Buto of Koshu, who succeeded Zen Master Bukan Igon of Taihei Mountain, and who was known as Master Shujon, says, "Tozan spoke of the place without cold and heat. Numerous Zen people have lost their way there. When it is cold, I get in front of a fire, and when it is hot, I employ means of keeping cool. All my life, I am able to avoid and escape cold and heat." This Master Shujon is a Dharma grandson of Zen Master Gosso Hoen, and his words are like those of a small child. Even so, in "all my life I am able to avoid and escape cold and heat," there may be a hint of future mature realization. In that case, all my life means with my whole life, and escaping cold and heat means getting free of body and mind. In conclusion, although masters from many districts and in many ages have devoted themselves to flapping their lips like this, offering their eulogies to the ancients, they have never glimpsed the periphery of the founding patriarch Tozan. The reason, if asked, is that they is that they do not know what cold and heat are in the everyday life of a Buddhist patriarch, and so they randomly speak, for example, of employing means of keeping cool and getting in front of a fire. It is especially pitiful that you, Shujon, though in the vicinity of venerable patriarchs, have not heard what cold and heat means. We should regret that the ancestral master's truth has died out. Knowing the form and stages of this cold and heat, having passed instantaneously through periods of cold and heat, and having utilized cold and heat, we should praise over again with eulogies of the ancients and discussions of the ancients the truth that the founding patriarch taught. Until we are at that level, the best thing for us is to know our own faults. Even the secular are aware of the sun and the moon, and they maintain and rely upon the myriad things. But there are differences among them, between the sacred and the clever, between gentlefolk and stupid fellows. Do not misunderstand that cold and heat in the Buddha's truth are the same as the cold and heat of stupid fellows. Just be diligent in practice at once. Shōbōgenzō Shunju preached to the assembly a second time deep in the mountains of Etsu in the second year of Kangen, 1244. At a Buddhist event, I have preached a Buddhist Kirin Sutra. An ancestral master said, "Though there are many horns in the herd, one Kirin is enough." Thanks for listening. Do take care.